This is the ultimate guide when you want to end a narcissistic relationship. Hello and welcome back to Narcissist and Karma channel. If you've ever been caught up in the challenges of a narcissistic relationship, you've come to the right place. Today, we're tackling a topic that often comes up in our community: closure. That elusive sense of resolution we all yearn for, especially after navigating the turbulent dynamics of narcissistic relationships. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell. This way, you'll never miss our discussions about narcissism, healing, and everything in between. Let's get started. When I think about closure, I'm immediately reminded of the movies, TV shows, and books we all love. These stories often draw us in because they provide a satisfying sense of closure. You know, when the villain finally faces justice, the hero saves the day, or the love story ends happily. It's like a weight is lifted when we see everything come together perfectly. That's why we can rewatch certain movies time and time again. There's something incredibly comforting about experiencing that emotional release and seeing the story unfold just the way we want. But you know what's frustrating? When a story ends unfairly or feels incomplete. Ever heard about those movie focus groups that brainstorm alternate endings? For example, I read about Pretty Woman. Originally, Julia Roberts' character wasn't supposed to end up with the guy, which would have been more realistic. But let's be honest, that wouldn't have given us the happy ending we craved. So they changed it, and thank goodness they did. It's not just movies either. Even books sometimes get reworked to provide a more satisfying conclusion when adapted for film. Personally, on tough days, I turn to a book or show where the bad guys get their comeuppance. There's something therapeutic about seeing justice served. It's like a little reminder that, at least in stories, fairness can prevail. Closure is like gold. But in narcissistic relationships, it's about as rare as finding a four-leaf clover in the desert. Why is that? Well, for starters, narcissists have no real concept of a genuine apology. Think about celebrity apologies. They often come across as scripted statements crafted by PR teams, lacking true remorse or acknowledgement of the harm caused. It's usually something like, "Whoops, my bad, let's move on," without ever fully owning up to the damage. Everyday narcissists operate in much the same way. Getting a heartfelt apology from a narcissist is like trying to squeeze water from a rock. They're simply not wired to empathize with the pain they've inflicted. When they do apologize, it feels hollow and insincere, leaving you even more frustrated. It's as if they're just going through the motions because they feel obligated, not because they genuinely mean it. So, if you're waiting for closure in a narcissistic relationship, don't hold your breath. It's about as likely as hitting the jackpot in the lottery. Now let's talk about accountability. It's the missing piece in the puzzle of an authentic apology. A sincere apology goes hand in hand with taking responsibility for one's actions. But with narcissists, forget about it. They're masters of dodging accountability. Picture this. You're trying to address an issue with them. It's clear they've messed up, but instead of admitting fault, they spin the conversation in circles, avoiding responsibility at all costs. It's like trying to have a logical discussion with a spinning top, frustrating and futile. Without accountability, there's no real resolution, and closure becomes an impossible dream. Now, imagine a narcissist actually owning up and saying, "Yeah, I messed up." Suddenly, you'd feel validated, no longer questioning your own sanity. That acknowledgement can act as a lifeline in a sea of chaos. But without it, you're left shouting into the void while they walk away unscathed. And here's another wrench in the works. Narcissists are experts at moving on and fast. If you're in a relationship with one, By the time they decide to end things, they've likely already lined up their next partner. It's like they've got a backup life waiting in the wings, ready to go at a moment's notice. Sure, non-narcissistic people can move on quickly too, but with narcissists, it's practically guaranteed. I've heard countless breakup stories where the narcissist already had someone new lined up before the previous relationship was even officially over. It's a gut punch, leaving you stunned and reeling. While you're still processing what went wrong and hoping for some kind of resolution, they're already cozying up to someone else. Closure? Forget it. Instead, you're left in a whirlwind of anger, grief, and endless questions, like, what just happened? Then there's the complete absence of apologies and accountability. Have you ever been in a situation where things fell apart and the other person refused to take any responsibility? And let's not forget the classic scenario where they're clearly moving on before the relationship is even cold, yet they insist there was no overlap. Right. It's like they've developed selective memory. Let's be honest. You don't just end one relationship and instantly dive into another without some overlap. But trying to get them to admit that, good luck. It's maddening, and any hope of closure, gone. This lack of closure isn't limited to romantic relationships either. It's just as prevalent in family dynamics. Imagine a situation where someone blatantly messes up, but the family sweeps it under the rug as if nothing happened. That's a whole other level of dysfunction. In some cases, a narcissistic family member might outlive everyone else, leaving others feeling like the universe forgot to settle the score. It's like justice never showed up, and you're stuck in limbo, grappling with the unsettling feeling that things are just wrong. It's a tough pill to swallow when it feels like the narcissist got away with it, and closure remains out of reach. Closure in relationships is a funny thing. Sometimes you can sit down for that final conversation, and while it might hurt, you walk away understanding why things didn't work out. Maybe it was bad timing or different priorities, but at least there's mutual acknowledgement. In those cases, you can move forward without bitterness or confusion. But dealing with a narcissistic relationship, that's a completely different story. Closure in those cases isn't just elusive, it's practically non-existent. Sometimes closure comes, but usually when you've already moved on and stopped caring. It might be years later when you hear they got dumped or lost all their money, and your reaction is just, not my problem anymore. Sure, that's a kind of closure, but let's be honest, you needed it way back when the breakup actually happened. Other times, closure comes sooner. Maybe 6 months after the breakup, you find out they're trying to win you back because their new partner dumped them. That can bring a little sense of satisfaction too. But here's the thing. True closure often comes when you stop engaging with them altogether. Without them in your life, you suddenly have more space, time, and peace. Sure, it might sting to see them move on so quickly, but remember, they are playing by completely different rules. To them, relationships are surface level, more about status or convenience than deep, meaningful connections. So when they jump into something new right away, it's not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their shallow approach to relationships. I get it. It's hard. If I could grant one wish, it would be for every survivor to find closure quickly. But here's the truth. Sometimes fast closure isn't ideal. If a narcissist faces consequences too soon, you might not have had enough time to heal or gain clarity. That could make you vulnerable to taking them back out of sympathy or hope for change. Healing takes time, and that time is what strengthens you. When the narcissist inevitably comes crawling back, you'll be in a place where you can firmly say no. And trust me, there's no sweeter closure than knowing you've reclaimed your power. Before you go, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Check out the description below for a free book and information on booking a one-on-one consultation. These resources are here to support you on your healing and empowerment journey. Thank you for being part of our community. Together, we'll continue to grow stronger and more resilient. Like, share, and subscribe, and let's keep lifting each other up on this path to recovery.